Ever since I left Overwatch in early 2019, I've always tried to find a game that can more or less fill that competitive void left in my heart. That sense of climbing through the ranks and becoming better at the game by honing your skills over time was the reason why I spent so much time on it. Because there were a lot of unique characters and classes in the game, you didn't always need to be a god amongst men, fragging out and destroying everyone in your path. But rather, in my case, I played a supportive role and felt just as important, even if I didn't get all the glory. Since then, I tried many other games to no avail to rekindle that competitive energy inside myself. But that being said, there were a couple that caught my eye, even for a brief moment. One of those games was CSGO. Even before I played Overwatch, I still had an appreciation for Counterstrike. That hard to play, hard to master gameplay loop with the addicting and unique gunplay. The fact that you could die in one shot and couldn't come back raised the stakes that made Counterstrike a very tactical, very tense, and at times a very fun competitive shooter. In fact, the main reason why I never really chose to play CS more often is, how do I say this without making people mad at me? The game felt scuffed? Yeah, CSGO, for the longest time for me, always felt pretty aged in one way or another. So when I heard there would be a brand new tactical shooter with the abilities and the team play of Overwatch, and the gunplay and the tension of Counterstrike, I was intrigued. What was also promising was that the developer, Riot Games, the people behind the massively popular League of Legends game, were saying that this game was built from the ground up to be the best competitive environment possible. With groundbreaking anti-cheat, with that always desired 128 tick server rate, with closed beta now behind us, and that game is now officially out, let's take a cold, hard look at Valorant. When I played Valorant through the closed beta to release, it was overall a pretty positive experience. Since the release of Valorant, there have been a lot of improvements, mostly regarding to polish and hit registration. With the introduction of new content like a new map, agent, game mode, and even a battle pass. Before I get into what I think about Valorant, I should probably explain what the game is centered around. Valorant's main game mode is basically search and destroy. The attackers must plant the bomb, while defenders have 40 seconds to defuse the spike. If the spike explodes or the entire defending team is eliminated, the attackers win. However, if the spike is defused or if the attacking team is eliminated before they can plant the spike, the defenders win. The defenders win also if time runs out. After each round, the player is given money to buy abilities or weapons. How much they get is dependent on how many kills they get or if they win or lose. The game switches sides every 12 rounds, with how you win the game is whoever's the first one to score 13. Add in with the fact everyone has 1 life and there's a 30-second buy phase before the round starts, and that's generally how games of Valorant go. The second game mode, Spike Rush, is a lot like the first game mode but faster. It's great to play if you want to play a game but you are waiting on a friend or you don't have a lot of time. In this game mode, weapons are auto-picked for you with various buff orbs around the map. It's chaotic, but with the win conditions only being the first to 4 rounds, it's short and sweet. In all honesty, I like it, but I would have preferred gun game or deathmatch. While Valorant isn't the most original idea out there, I do believe that it was executed well to an extent. Good positioning is rewarded, each gun feels pretty reasonably priced, the game runs great, it's fun to play especially with friends, getting kills is satisfying, and the servers also run pretty well. Why does it feel like I'm talking about Counter-Strike except for those last few points? It must be a coincidence or something. Well, anyway, what makes Valorant's gunplay different from Counter-Strike, other than, abilities, is that aiming in Valorant is a lot more forgiving, which means that you're gonna hit your shots a lot more. Another interesting thing to note is that every SMG and assault rifle has an aim down sight. In this mode, guns shoot more accurately, but shoot less. Kind of like the AUG and SSG from Counter-Strike, oh my. One thing I do like is the fact that there are only 100 seconds in a round, with no overtime, meaning that the teams need to make use of their time efficiently rather than just the attackers doing nothing the entire round, and trying to make a push at the last second for an overtime, kind of like Counter-Strike. Yeah, I don't know if I can continue this video without mentioning the elephant in the room. It's pretty obvious that Valorant is a lot like Counter-Strike in nature. Combine this with the fact that the graphics don't look necessarily state-of-the-art, this has led to complaints that Valorant is like a poor man's version of Counter-Strike. While I disagree with that, it has some merit. Other than the 128 tick server rate, anti-cheat system, and map design to an extent, I can hardly call this game innovative. Just about everything this game has, I have seen elsewhere before. Does this make Valorant a hashtag bad or dead game? No, not at all. I just think of it as a different take, but I understand that it's not for everyone, and that some people left Valorant probably disappointed. Generally, my view of Valorant to Counterstrike feels akin to the relationship between League of Legends and Dota. League is a lot more easier for a beginner to learn and has a lot more of a casual fan base, while Dota is a lot more hardcore, with it being more difficult to get into, but with a smaller devoted fan base. But both games seem to coexist peacefully. But what about the characters or agents that make Valorant, well, Valorant? After all, this is a class-based shooter. So far, the game has 11 agents. While some agents might not be entirely original artistically, and maybe even more than that, at least in Valorant, they each are different enough from each other in terms of gameplay and abilities to have drastically different playstyles. For example, while Jett and Reyna might be great duelists that thrive and benefit from solo fragging or killing on attack, agents like Sage benefit the team by healing, walling, and even reviving down teammates, having much more of a team-oriented but defensive playstyle. This has led to a problem though, because seeing as Sage is the only agent that can heal others, she's a must pick, which is something I hope the devs figure out a solution to soon by adding in a new agent or something. There's also a lot more agents and playstyles, like with Sova and Cypher. Their kit is based around trying to get intel on where the enemies are. Agents like Viper and Brimstone can block off certain sightlines, making it hard for enemies to react, sort of like the smokes from Counterstrike, but give or take the sheer scale of it. Ultimate abilities are also in the game. A person gains their ultimate through either getting kills, dying, or collecting ultimate orbs placed on the ground. It's good to know though that ultimates are not nearly as oppressive as they are in Overwatch. It can be enough to win a round, and there are possible combos, but it's not nearly as press Q to win as Overwatch. Let's take a moment though and take a look at the maps themselves. As said earlier, there are 4 maps. Each map has their own gimmick, or gameplay altering effects. Haven, in my opinion, the best map, has 3 points, where you can attack and defend. Bind has 2 points, but instead of a mid lane, there are 2 teleporters connecting the 2 points. Split is probably the most normal or CSGO-like map so far. Split has a rope system that changes elevations a little bit. And finally, Ascent. Ascent has a huge midway, but with doors that are closable but destructible. I have already said what was my favorite map. But what about my least favorite map? Split, it's Split. Split is such a boring map. Before someone says it, it's not because it's the most CSGO-like map. It's because it's so boring to look at. It's just so monotone gray, it's boring. When I played this map in beta for the first week, it just felt like a maze. If I didn't have my mini-map at the top left, I would have been completely lost. The map was also very defense-sided, but since the beta, Riot did rework mid recently, so that shows that Riot is at least willing to rework maps, so maybe they would be able to rework the color palette. But other than that, I feel like the map design in Valorant is pretty solid and does a good job accommodating all or a lot of the agent's abilities. Once again, going back to that polish point earlier. And even though Valorant is not the most original game out there, I still have fun with it, and I can see myself playing it for a very long time. Saying that though, I feel like Valorant should have been delayed. Let me explain. Now, the game is not Fallout 76 or anything. Don't worry, it's fairly bug-free, and it's not because it's unplayable either. It's just that I felt like Valorant could have used more content at launch, rather than relying primarily on post-launch support. Now, of course, that is completely subjective. I mean, after all, some people are fine with the amount of content at launch, but let me put this into perspective. Valorant right now only has 4 maps, 11 agents, and 2 game modes. While the game's direct competitor, CSGO or Counter-Strike Global Offensive at launch, or at least at the earliest version I can go back to, had 19 maps, a lot being remastering of old maps, and others being entirely brand new. Counter-Strike also had 3 game modes as well. And yes, before you ask me, I understand that CSGO was a pay-to-play game, and that Valorant was a free-to-play game. and that Valorant offers what CSGO doesn't, like solid anti-cheat for everyone and 128 tick servers and so on. But nowadays, CSGO is also free, and it has a lot more content. Valorant, in my opinion, just needed to be rolling out the gate with a lot more content because of that. Imagine if Riot decided to release the game at the end of 2020, or even a year from now, with 8 or more launch maps, 3 to 4 game modes, and even lowball and get 12 agents. I feel like the game would have been better received and got a lot more praise, other than just the collective "it's okay I guess" that it got at launch. I also want to take this time to point out that some features that are not in the game that probably should have been there at launch. The first thing will be admittedly small, but it's still important. That thing is a career profile, or a way to track stats long term. People give Overwatch and Blizzard a lot of crap, but to their credit, they implement small little things that are cool and useful. It's nice to see years of game experience line up in front of you, hours of playing certain heroes, and general stats from each game mode. This seems like a small, little, insignificant thing, sure, but this is a key feature that should have been there on day one, especially for a hero shooter like Valorant, and I'm disappointed that it's just not there. And no, post-game reports don't count. The other thing that I will mention is something that Riot confirmed will come, just not at this moment. Theater mode. Yeah, I went there. For a competitive shooter, it's rather important to see where you made mistakes and how to improve on them by watching previous games back, but it's just simply not there at the moment. Theater mode would also help out with making community content, as well as identifying cheaters, because the community and players could investigate and see for themselves through enemy POV if they're cheating or not. It's sad to see Valorant, this competitive shooter hyped up and releasing in 2020, launching without these crucial features that have been staples in other competitive games for a long time. That makes me think even more that Valorant probably should have been delayed, even for a few more months. I should also mention that even though the game was working fine for me and many others at launch, but there were still reports of various server problems such as not connecting to the game, and more specifically, Battle Pass rewards not being rewarded. There have been people saying that there are still peakers advantage, even though this game was supposed to severely crack down on that stuff. As of writing the script though, most of these problems seem to be fixed. One thing I also feel pretty mixed about is the monetization in Valorant. For the most part, it's pretty good, cosmetic only. But I want to talk about it because there are some issues that I have with it. I'll tackle weapon skins first because it's sort of like low-bearing fruit. I won't stay on this point for long. Ahem. Look, Riot, I don't care how cool the skin and its animations look. I'm not gonna spend $10 to $35 on a single skin. It's just not good value in my opinion. But to give Riot some credit, I do like how you can upgrade those same skins, but I'm not going to spend $70 on a collection. I get it, it's a free-to-play game, you need to make your money back. And it's a business too. But as a fan, this is too much. At least on Counterstrike, you can sell your skins on the Steam marketplace and get your money back, and also get cool skins for a couple of bucks and even trade with others. But in Valorant, there is no Steam marketplace, so don't charge as much as a Counterstrike skin. With that out of the way, battle passes. They are everywhere, but some are better than others, and Valorant's is better than most. Whoa, philosophical, right? What I like about Valorant's battle pass is the fact that there are a lot of skins, at least with one on each page. And yes, I'm not that hard of a man to please, I know, but the skins themselves, well, they're pretty sweet. And I think you definitely get your money's worth from them in more ways than just one. The one thing that is holding it back from other battle passes though, is that in the premium column and even the free column, you don't get the main premium currency. Which is a bummer because in other passes and other games, if you make it to the end, you would normally have enough of that currency for the next pass. So that means when the next one comes out, it's sort of like a reward for grinding to the very end. But instead in Valorant, you get something called Radiant Points, which is not exactly ideal for me and many other people. But you're probably asking yourself, Paul, it can't be that bad. What are Radiant Points even used for anyway? Well, to answer that question, they're used as the currency for upgrading premium weapon skins. Which is cool, but for me and many other people that don't buy those expensive skins, it's just really useless. Just give us the normal currency or another use of Radiant points or something. Again, the Battle Pass isn't bad, it's good, but come on, Riot. I know what you're doing here and I'm not falling for it. The last thing that would cover monetization would be contracts and how a person would unlock agents or heroes. For the most part, it's done well and it's kind of like a battle pass. You can pay $10 and instantly get halfway through the contract and get the agent, or you can earn 2 free agent unlocks, which does not take too long, and after those unlocks, if you want another, all you have to do is select a contract and grind halfway through it. It'll take a long time, but it's nice to see that's a thing in this game. It's a really cool idea for a mini battle pass that you can have on at the same time as the regular battle pass. You also even get cool pistol skins at the end of it. It's all well and good except for one thing. You can't activate an agent contract without using both of your unlocks. So if you don't care for any other agents at that time, too bad, you can't save for it. Which is so weird for me because I'm so used to games like Apex, another free-to-play game where you can save hero tokens for the ones that you want in the future. Again, this isn't a deal breaker, I get why they did this, I still like Valorant, it just kinda sucks as a person who made Sage and Sova 2 starting agents, that I can't at least just save one unlock for one character I might like in the future. To try and not stretch this video out any further, I think I'll wrap it up here. Some people might think I'm being too overly harsh on Valorant, but sometimes it takes someone with a passion from the community to criticize a game and hold it accountable. And even though I did not bring up things like Valorant's intrusive anti-cheat, Riot Vanguard, because I think it's been sort of overcovered at this point, just know that I'm fully aware of it, and I think people are right to be wary of Vanguard, and I don't blame people for not downloading the game because of it. If you don't know what's going on though, I implore you to look at the videos I linked in the description, because people like Muda can describe it way better than I can. Valorant overall is a solid foundation for the future, and as time goes on, I think it's going to have a great chance at succeeding to being the next up-and-coming esport, with great gunplay and good map design. However, that being said, I have to give it a 6.5 out of 10. It's a solid foundation, but it's still just a foundation. I recommend it, but there's not a lot of content to work with, and I know competitive is around the corner, but the rewards for competitive mode won't be even out at launch of that mode either. I just think the game should have had more time in the oven, because even though it's edible and it tastes great, it could have been better. Whoa, where did that food metaphor come in? That's kind of half-baked if you get what I'm saying. Get it? Half-baked oven? Okay, well, I think I'm going to end the video right here. If you agree with me or disagree with me, then I guess leave your comments down below. I am actually kind of interested in what people will think about it. Anyways, I'm Paul, and I'll see you next time.